In the sprawling urban city of Sci-Fi, a planet known for its towering skyscrapers and neon-lit streets, life was fast-paced and merciless. The city had become a haven for intergalactic travelers, from humans to aliens, each bringing their own skills, stories, and hopes. It was a place where technology thrived, but so did the harsh realities of survival. Zara, a young alien woman from the distant planet Zalara, had once been full of hope. She had left her home planet, seeking a better life in the bustling city of Sci-Fi. On Zalara, her people were known for their intelligence and beauty, but Zara had something even more prized, a unique ability to manipulate energy, a skill she had honed since childhood. She believed that with her skills, she could find a decent job, build a life, and live the dream. However, the harsh reality of Sci-Fi soon shattered her illusions. The city was a labyrinth of bureaucracy, wealth, and power, and her skills, though impressive, were not enough to secure a stable job. Zara found herself bouncing from one low-paying gig to the next. Energy repairs, labor-intensive jobs that required her to fix the city's failing tech or clean the machinery that powered the endless skyscrapers. Every month, she barely scraped together enough to pay for her cramped apartment in one of the rundown districts. The rent had always been a struggle. Zara had hoped that her luck would change, that she'd find the right opportunity. But when the rent was due one fateful month, she found herself with nothing. No job prospects, no savings, and no way to pay the landlord. She pleaded with him for more time, but he was a ruthless businessman who saw no value in her plea. "Pay up, or get out," he told her coldly, his red eyes glinting with indifference. Zara was thrown out onto the streets. Homeless and desperate, Zara wandered the crowded streets of Sci-Fi, the city's harsh lights and busy hustle, making her feel even more isolated. With no place to go and nowhere to turn, she found herself starving, her body growing weaker by the day. Zara had never been taught how to survive on the streets, and the alien world was a harsh one, where the strong survived and the weak perished. One evening, as she sat by a dim alleyway, her stomach growling painfully, a man approached her. He was a human, though not the kind she had imagined would offer her help. His face was weathered, his clothes were torn, and his eyes had a weary look, as though he had seen more of the world's dark side than anyone should. He had a kind face, but there was something calculating in his gaze. "You look like you could use a meal," he said, offering her a small packet of food. It was simple, unappetizing, but it was food something Zara had not eaten in days. Her hands trembled as she reached out to take it. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice hoarse from hunger. As she took the food, she noticed something strange in the man's gaze. He seemed to be sizing her up, as though weighing a decision in his mind. "You're not from here, are you?" he asked, his voice low and curious. Zara looked up at him, unsure of how to respond. "No, I'm from Zalara. I came here hoping to build a new life." The man nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I've seen people like you before, out of place, struggling to survive." He paused, then added, "I can help you. I have a place where you can stay, but I need something in return." Zara frowned, the hairs on the back of her neck rising. She had heard enough stories of people taking advantage of the homeless. She had heard of people who offered help but expected something far worse in return. "What do you want?" she asked cautiously, her eyes narrowing. The man smiled, but it was a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "It's simple," he said. "I can give you food, a roof over your head, and even some work to get you back on your feet. But in exchange, I'll need something personal from you. Something to make it worthwhile for me." Zara's heart sank as the realization hit her. She knew where this was going. This was no kind offer. This man wanted something in exchange for his help. "I have nothing left," she said, looking down at the food in her hands, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't have money, and I don't have any way to repay you. I have nothing but my body, and it's already been sold to the highest bidder." The man laughed, a cold, mirthless laugh that echoed through the alleyway. "No need to get dramatic. You're a beautiful girl, and I think we can come to an agreement. I'll help you survive, and you'll give me something in return. Something physical." Zara's blood ran cold. She had heard these words before, from predators who would take advantage of someone in her vulnerable position. She had nothing left to lose, but she refused to let herself be reduced to this. "You can have the meal, but not me," Zara said firmly, her resolve building. "I will find another way to survive." The man's eyes darkened. "You're making a mistake, girl. Nobody survives this city without paying a price." Zara stood up slowly, her legs unsteady from hunger, but she held her ground. "I won't let anyone take advantage of me again." She turned and walked away, determination flooding her veins. She would rather die than let herself become an object for someone's pleasure. As she walked, she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, but there was a fire within her now, one that had been ignited by the man's words. She would not be a victim. Over the next few days, Zara kept moving, her stomach empty, but her heart full of resolve. She wandered the city, searching for anything she could do. Eventually, her path led her to a small underground resistance group. It was a group of people who had been fighting against the corporations that controlled Sci-Fi, and they saw potential in Zara's strength and resilience. They offered her work, not the kind that came with a price, but the kind that could give her a chance to rebuild her life. She worked alongside them, using her intelligence and skills to help sabotage the corporations and provide aid to those who were oppressed by the city's elite. As she worked, she learned that the world didn't have to be as cruel as it seemed. She could fight for her future, and she could be more than what the man had tried to make her. Zara's life slowly began to improve. She found a place to stay, not out of obligation, but out of mutual respect. And as time passed, she no longer saw herself as the homeless girl who had nothing left. She had a purpose now, one that didn't involve her body being used or sold. She had found her strength, and she knew that she was worth more than anyone had ever told her. The man who had tried to take advantage of her had no idea who he was dealing with. Zara wasn't just an alien girl anymore. She was a survivor, a warrior in her own right, and no one would ever again try to use her.